For years, LaMelo Ball felt like one of those players who would spend his entire career in Charlotte. He was the face of the franchise, the player fans bought tickets to watch, the guy the Hornets were supposed to build around, even through injuries, losing seasons, coaching changes, and constant questions about the direction of the organization. LaMelo Ball remained the centerpiece. But now, everything has changed. LaMelo Ball is now headed to the Minnesota Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards. And this trade might end up being one of the most shocking and important moves of the last couple of years. Because we're not talking about an average all-star changing teams. We're talking about one of the most creative playmakers in basketball joining a Timberwolves team that was already dangerous. A team that already had elite defense, a team that already had a superstar talent, a team that was already viewed as a contender. And now they just added a player capable of completely transforming their offense. The scary part, this move makes almost too much sense. For years, the biggest criticism of Minnesota was their offense in big moments, when playoff defenses locked in like the Thunder did, like the Mavericks did, and now like the Spurs did. Granted, the Timberwolves do very, very good in the playoffs, but let's be real, their limit is the Western Conference Finals at best. But things would become predictable. The ball would find Anthony Edwards, then Anthony Edwards again, then Anthony Edwards one more time. Now that's not a criticism of Anthony Edwards. He's one of the best young players in the NBA. He's explosive, he's fearless, and capable of dropping 40 points on anybody. But even the greatest players need help. The NBA has always been easier when stars have another elite creator next to them. Michael Jordan had Scottie Pippen. LeBron had Dwayne Wade and Kyrie. Steph Curry had Draymond Green, creating opportunities, and later Kevin Durant sharing the offensive load. The point is simple. Championship teams rarely rely on one guy to create everything. That's where LaMelo Ball enters the picture. LaMelo is one of the most gifted passers of his generation. Some players see the game. LaMelo sees plays before they happen. He throws passes most players wouldn't even attempt. He turns fast breaks into highlights. He creates easy buckets out of nothing. And now imagine him sharing the floor with Anthony Edwards. Think about that for a second. Defenses already struggle containing Edwards because of his speed and athleticism. Now they have to worry about one of the best playmakers in basketball finding him every time he cuts, runs in transition, or attacks a gap in the defense. That's a nightmare. Anthony Edwards may have never played with a passer this talented, and LaMelo Ball may have never played with a scorer this explosive. That's what makes this trade so fascinating. The fit feels natural. One player creates, one player finishes, one player controls the tempo, one player applies pressure. Together, they could become one of the best backcourts in basketball. And that's not an exaggeration. Look around the league. The NBA is built around star duos. Teams need multiple elite players to compete for a championship. Minnesota understands that. The Western Conference is loaded. Every year feels like a war. Literally war. They have teams like the Thunder, Spurs, Nuggets, Lakers. You have teams stacked with talent. You have MVP candidates everywhere. Standing still isn't enough. If you want to win a championship, you have to take risks. And Minnesota just took one of the biggest risks imaginable. Because while LaMelo's talent has never been questioned, his ability has. That's the biggest concern. Injuries have been the story of his career. Every time it feels like he's about to reach another level, something happens. An ankle injury, a setback, another missed stretch of games. The talent is obvious. The production is obvious. The problem has always been staying on the floor. That's why this trade is such a gamble. Minnesota isn't betting on the version of LaMelo Ball that misses games. They're betting on the version that can average 20 points and nearly 10 assists. They're betting on the version that can control an offense, a championship offense. They're betting on the version that can become a true superstar. And if they're right, the rest of the NBA should be terrified, because a healthy LaMelo Ball changes everything. One thing that often gets overlooked is how much easier basketball becomes when players don't have to force offense, if that makes sense. That's exactly what this trade does for Minnesota. Before, defenses could load up on Anthony Edwards. Now, can't do that. Leave LaMelo open and he'll make you pay. Double Anthony Edwards and LaMelo starts creating. Trap LaMelo and Edwards attacks. It's pick your poison. And the best teams are always the hardest teams to guard. Not because they have one unstoppable player, but because they have multiple problems you can't solve at the same time. Minnesota suddenly looks like that kind of team. What's even crazier is the pace this can create. LaMelo loves pushing the ball. He loves running. He loves chaos. The Timberwolves suddenly become one of the most exciting teams in basketball. Imagine a rebound, one outlook pass, LaMelo grabs it, Anthony Edwards is already sprinting. The defense isn't set, and suddenly it's another highlight. That's the type of basketball fans are about to see. The Timberwolves are going to be the most exciting team in the league next season. And the Timberwolves aren't just trying to win, they're trying to overwhelm opponents. And that makes them incredibly dangerous. But every trade has another side. Charlotte didn't make this move for no reason. Moving a player as talented as LaMelo Ball isn't easy. They ended up getting Naz Reid. And it signals a complete change in direction. For years, the Hornets hoped LaMelo would become the superstar who transformed their franchise. Unfortunately, the results never matched the expectations. There were flashes, amazing moments, incredible passes, highlight plays, but the team never truly became a contender. At some point, organizations have to make difficult decisions, and Charlotte decided it was time to start over. That's what makes this trade so significant. It's not just Minnesota getting better, it's Charlotte officially closing a chapter. An entire era has ended, and now both franchises move forward with completely different goals. For Minnesota, the goal is obvious. Win now. Compete now. Chase a championship now. No more waiting. No more development years. No more hoping. This is about winning. Especially since Julius Randle got traded to the Nets and the New York Knicks just won a championship with Karl Anthony Towns. You want to win now. Anthony Edwards wants to win now. That's why this trade right here is so important. The Timberwolves aren't acting like a team satisfied with playoff appearances. Granted, like I said before, they've been doing extremely well in the playoffs. 2 Western Conference Finals appearances and went 6 games with the San Antonio Spurs. They're acting like a team that believes it can win the entire thing. And honestly, maybe they're right, because when you look at the roster, it's hard not to get excited. Anthony Edwards entering his prime, arguably the face of the league. LaMelo Ball still incredibly young. A roster built around defense. Dosunmu, Rudy Gobert. And don't worry, this team has athleticism and versatility. That's the foundation contenders are built on. The scary part is that this group might not even reach its full potential immediately. Chemistry takes time. Learning teammates takes time. Building trust takes time. But once everything clicks, the ceiling becomes ridiculous. And that's what should worry the rest of the league. This isn't a move designed for a single season. This is a move designed for years. Minnesota is betting that LaMelo Ball and Anthony Edwards can become one of the most defining duos of this next generation. A duo capable of competing with anyone. A duo capable of selling out arenas. A duo capable of creating unforgettable moments. A duo capable of bringing a championship to Minnesota. That sounds ambitious, but so did many great NBA partnerships before they happened. Sometimes the biggest risks create the biggest rewards, and that's exactly why this trade is so insane. Because if it fails, Minnesota gave up valuable assets for a player who couldn't stay healthy. But if it works, the entire balance of power in the NBA changes. Suddenly, every contender has a new problem. Suddenly, every playoff series becomes harder. Suddenly, the Timberwolves aren't just dangerous, they're terrifying. And that's what makes this trade impossible to ignore. Not what LaMelo Ball has already done, not what Minnesota already is, but what they could become together. Because sometimes one move changes everything. Sometimes one trade shifts the future of a franchise. And sometimes a team decides that good isn't good enough. The Minnesota Timberwolves just made that decision. Now the rest of the NBA has to live with it. Let me know what other NBA players you guys are going to hear me talk about next. And I'll see you guys in the very next video.